And right now we're being joined virtually by Fawole Israel. Good morning, Fawole Israel, and welcome to the program.
Oh, thank you so much. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right, we have Fawole Israel right here with us on the screen. Let's delve straight into the business of the day. You know, there's this headline on the Daily Trust newspaper that talks about how only 5.3 million workers would benefit from the new minimum wage if implemented, and that means that out of Nigeria's population of about 229 million people, only 76 million, which is about 33.2% of workers, will benefit from this. In your perspective, looking at this ratio, how does that work for us as a country? Because this means that it is not inclusive of everybody, and what you think needs to be done to have a case where we have absolute inclusion of all workers, both those that are government workers and those that are in the organized private sector.
Oh, thank you so much. This is one of the reasons why we are calling on government when they want to come with policies. They need to include every relevant stakeholders. As we can hear, some major, what you call it, some major stakeholders like Governor Razak. I really love the fact that he was, so he has been in support of local government autonomy. And one of the problems about this is because there is no local government autonomy. If there is local government autonomy, the local government authorities should also be carried along in this, in this negotiation. That's one. Two, the governors also needs to be on the same page with the president, with the presidency and the legislature and national assembly for us to be able to actually achieve this, this equity that we are talking about. 5.3 million is so insignificant to the population of Nigerian workers. If that is reported as that those are the people that will benefit from the new minimum wage. I want to believe it is probably just a joke or a kind of propaganda to test the waters, or probably they're just trying to do a survey to test how it will be, received by the people. So I do not want to believe that is the fact. Because when you look at even within the federal government, paid, direct workers, they are more than 5.3 million. So I don't know what analysis, I don't know what statistics, what bathed that statistics. So let us just take it as maybe just some some kind of joke or some survey. Maybe they're just trying to have some sample size calculation. They're trying to to just play around it. I don't want to take it as something serious, honestly speaking. Thank you.
All right. Now, I know some governors have come out to say that this new minimum wage might plunge us into another economic crisis. A lot of people have even said that it would definitely cause inflation. I mean, but some people are even saying that even right now we are still experiencing inflation. So what other inflation, except we go into hyperinflation? So what's your thought about it? Do you think that if the minimum wage is pegged at, let's say, 250,000 naira, the Labour Congress, we might, plunge into maybe super hyperinflation?
Oh, okay, thank you. So I think that is an injustice brought out of another injustice because of late the presidency released. I think I saw a policy statement on how that the presidency removes tax for himself for some import goods, but has that actually amounted into reduction in price of goods that we are buying in the market? So as the presidents have their role to play, the presidency and the government have their role to play. Also, the distributors, the marketers, who are the people, also need to be sincere to the cause of nation building. And that is where National Orientation Agency comes in. The cause of nation building in Nigeria is I feel people need to be properly oriented about policies and their possible impacts. If government is playing their own right, I mean, if it is doing their own right in commitment, compliance by the people is also very important. If people will comply, then we'll have a beautiful outcome. When government is doing something right, let us say, yes, the government has done something right. Compliance by the people is also very important for us to have a beautiful outcome. I want to give you an example. Look at countries like Rwanda, for example. I mean, the government came up with a lot of new policies, strategies, and all of those things, but there is compliance by the followers, by the citizens, and that is why they have the result that they have. Look at, when you travel to Europe and other countries, you see that, their people comply. when government comes up with policy and all of those things. So our people also need to comply for us to actually have a beautiful democratic outcome. It is not only the what do you call it, the government's responsibility. The people must, be patriotic enough to, take very good policies that are coming from the stable of the government, and that is when we can have very beautiful and a very equitable country.
All right. Let me take your attention a little from the conversation around the minimum wage. Now, I recall that for years now, if I'm not mistaken, over 3 years, there have been calls for the 1999 Constitution to be, changed. There have been calls for a new constitution, a constitutional reform, saying that the 1999 constitution is not all inclusive, amongst other things. And this morning, we still have it on the Guardian newspaper talking about how Anyaoku Nwachukwu, Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi, amongst others, have said Nigeria requires a new constitution. In your perspective, do you think that a new constitution is one of the things that can help solve some of the challenges that we are experiencing as a nation? And if yes, what are some of the factors you would suggest they look into when coming up with this new constitution to ensure that it is not for selfish interests of those at the helm of affairs, but an inclusion of the people that matter?
Oh, okay, thank you. So for me, I don't believe the constitution is entirely the only problem. Why it has been identified as a problem, because that is like our manual, our modus operandi of operation in the country. That is the law that guides our operations in the country. And it has not over the last 25 years battered something beautiful, something good for us. We are not having good democratic outcomes. Yes, why it is a factor, but it is not all depending on the factor. We, the people who interpret, who implement, what do you call it, this constitution, also have a very serious role to play. Yes, I agree that yes, that the constitution should be revisited, should be reviewed. That is very important. The question you asked after yes, after the agreement to the constitution, you said what again? Sorry, remind me.
So if the constitution is going to be, changed, if we're going to have a constitutional reform, what are some of the factors you would suggest or advise that we put in place into consideration when coming up with this, so that it is not just for the interest of those at the helm of affairs, but we have an inclusion of the benefits of Nigerians at large, something that works for us and not for the selfish interest of those that are clamoring for it?
Okay, thank you. Two things I would recommend. First, research and development are pari passu. You want to come up with new laws, you want to build a new constitution, then research is very, very important. The government, all its arms, all its organs must be committed to carry out seasoned research, because there must be evidence, concrete evidence to uphold, their recommendations. Over the past 25 years, we have enough data to be able to determine, to project, to give us projections on, oh yes, we have done well in this aspect, oh yes, and how can we improve it? So data would really help us, because we can make a very beautiful, what do you call it, constitution or law. It's very important that science cannot be ignored. It cannot be ignored. That's number one. Logic cannot be thrown into the basket of rotten tomato. That's number two. And of course, also data is very, very important. And it is very important for us to actually use very strong evidences. And on the hierarchy of evidence, one of the things that I see is we normally do in Nigeria is that we base our policy making processes, our law making processes based on experiences. And when you look at the hierarchy of evidence when it comes to policy making, experience is the weakest form of evidence. So we need to go for the strong evidence. I mean, over the past 25 years, that data is enough for us to actually work on, for us to be able to make a new, constitution. That is one. Two, inclusion is a very critical indices of good governance in democracy. So we need to include all people. When I mean all people, we have the formal sector, informal sector, the youth, the disabled, the women, the children. Everybody needs to be, brought to a round table for us to be able to actually, discuss, just like it was done during the national conference. I don't know why the national conference has come up to today has not been visited or has not been utilized. So we need to also include people, because you can't just say, oh, as government, this is what you have, this is what you thought is good for the people. You must also consult the people. What do you think, is good for them. I mean, for example, something happened, I think it was in your state when the government was saying, oh, they passed through somewhere and the road is very bad. They want to build a road for them. And, the people of the community, they protested, said, no, that is not their priority at the moment. They don't have water. It would be good if the government first
Fixes water.
invest in water. So if you don't consult people, what do you call it? You are leading. How do you want to keep imposing? So it's very important that you ask them how they want to be led. It is very, very, very important that we consult and include people of all category in our policy making processes.
When you talk about inclusion of people on all levels, it brings me back to this conversation when we're talking about going cashless, when the whole conversation around the cashless policy came up. And, I had a couple of people that went into research into some of these rural areas, and you find out that a lot of them do not even have an idea or an understanding of what that is. And that takes me to the part of our census. I think the last time we had a census was in 2006, which is about 18 years ago. So how does the government intend to have an inclusion of all these people in rural areas that do not even have an idea of how things are operating? If we do not first have a census, how do we bring these people to the table? How do we get representatives for the people?
Thank you so much. Just like that is why research is very important. If you have a constitution that when it was made, we had maybe 90 million people, and right now we have a projection or we have the current population of 260 million. How do you expect that same constitution to serve 260 million people? It is, not a correct one. That's why research, data, and logic cannot be taken out of the process of governance. And when you talk about governance, I talk about ethical governance. Science plays a very strong and a very serious role, in that aspect. You talked about how do people in the local community, that is where local government autonomy comes in. And between me and you, when we're children, you know how popular the councillors in our communities are. All of us, we have a relationship with the councillor in our community, in our basic community. But right now, do you even know the councillor in your community?
At all. You don't even know anything. They are not even staying in that community.
It's not even about they are not even staying in that community. They are not even empowered. I mean, back then, if you remember, back then, let's compare back then and now. You know your councillors, yeah? Like you know, oh, it is Brother Abu is the councillor from my ward. I mean, back in my from Ward 7, in my state here, in my local government. So we need to give that autonomy to the local government people. They need to be properly empowered, and it is through that process, you know, the what do you call it? The local people, both in the rural, they will feel included. So without local government autonomy, we are not going to achieve anything meaningful when it comes to development, when it comes to having a very beautiful country.
All right, yes. Let me also remind our viewers that you can also take part in the discussion by calling our phone lines, which will be displayed on the screen. Before we go, I would like to ask you a question. It has to do with one of the reports coming from the Guardian newspaper this morning. Randy lecturers accused of frustrating female students in Ebonyi State. Now, this thing they call sex for mark. Yes, the lecturers have their guilt. The students also have their guilt. Some students, out of laziness, out of this lackadaisical attitude, just want to, have their way, and all that. But what do you think we can actually do? What do you think the federal government can do? What do you think the state government, and what do you think the university also, the university senate can do to put a long-lasting solution or prevention to this thing called sex for marks?
Okay, I'm going to say two things. Sometimes when you kill an ant with a sledgehammer, it is not about that ant, it's about others that are watching. Serious measures should be put in place. Stiffer measures should be put in place for this kind of a thing. Because when people know that there is a serious law, maybe a capital punishment, I mean, I don't know, something very serious.
All right,
something
Israel
very,
Fawole, please hold that thought. We have Kayode on the line. Good morning, Kayode, and welcome to the program.
Hello, good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Good morning.
Yes, good morning.
You're welcome.
I'd like to take part in the conversation by saying that I'm of the opinion of the constitution reform, and I like how you've been discussing on it so far based on inclusion and considering the citizen as a whole. But then, constitution reform at this time of the present economy and situation in the country, rather, is it so necessary to look into it right now, speaking on debate of the economy and policy? But then, constitutional reform, we have to look at agendas. I like the fact that he was talking about inflation. We have to take it from the grassroots down to the top. We have to look at how sectors can come together to favor the people. I like the situation that happened where you mentioned about the Oyo State where the government were about to construct the road, but they were told that, okay, it's water we want. Does the people want the constitution to be reformed at this moment? Government can be looking at it from a power sector that, okay, this is how best we can do it. We understand how politics is in Nigeria. So looking at it from the people angle, is it constitutional reform we want to be talking about right now?
All right.
Constitutional reform we want to be bringing to the people's table right now.
Thank
we have
you.
other things to look into. We have to
All right, thank you very much, Kayode. Thank you very much. We do appreciate
so,
your
you get what I'm trying to say? I'm trying to say that constitutional reform as a whole, government should listen to people from a point of agenda and try to think and look how they can bring the people to a unity and just try to help us out of the current mess we are in. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Kayode.
Thank you very much. All right, Isreal Fawole, please go ahead.
Yeah, so I was saying that, the government or the authorities, universal authorities, the government needs to put in a stiffer measures. I was using an example of killing an ant with a sledgehammer. It is not about the ant, it's about other people that are watching. So stiffer punishment should be put in place to be able to curb this kind of what do you call it? This kind of incidents happening incessantly on our university campus.
And how do you think we can also enlighten our students? I mean, because this also boils down on them. What can they do? Who can they report to? Sometimes these lecturers have a strong influence. They have people around. So even if the student wants to go and report, I mean, it's a lecturer. It could even be a dean of a faculty. So what do you think can be put in place?
So, and that is where the student union comes in. Every department, every faculty have the student union, and they have the welfare. And most times, the vice chancellor, the vice president is usually a female, and that is one of the roles of the vice president of student unions across the schools. So, the student union needs to be properly empowered. The civil society and organization needs to power with the student union, so that proper investigation, proper partnership, proper empowerment is given to the student union to be able to advocate and address this kind of problem when it happens.
All right.
All right. Thank you very much, Isreal Fawole. We do appreciate your contribution.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us. Ensure to enjoy the rest of your day.
You too. Bye.
Bye.